Once dead, you are immortal. Or perhaps it's better said, death is immortal. Think about that paradox for a moment. Welcome back to Codex Æternum. I'm C.S. Douglas. This is Codex Æternum, a journey into the rational Bible, exploring the intelligent universe and your place within it. This program comes to you through Orthopedia, the world's only encyclopedia dedicated exclusively to authors. Visit orthopedia.org to discover the minds behind the words that shape our world. In our first episode, we explored the infinite space that existed before time began, the eternal presence in which all reality unfolds. In our second episode, we examined energy and frequency, the vibrational language through which the universe speaks to itself. Today, we turn to perhaps the most profound question humans have ever asked. What survives death? And the answer, as promised, is not comforting in the way religion promises comfort. It's far stranger, far more beautiful, and far more true. Let's begin. Death terrifies most people, not because they realize they've experienced it, but because they imagine it as annihilation, the end of me, the cessation of consciousness, the permanent darkness. This fear is so primal, so overwhelming, that it gave birth to thousands of religions across human history. Each tradition created its own narrative of what happens after death, its own heavens and hells, its own reincarnation cycles, its own divine judgments. Each culture shaped idols and rituals to comfort the dying and reassure the living. The Egyptians promised the field of reeds. The Greeks imagined the underworld. The Christians envision paradise or damnation. The Hindus speak of rebirth. The Buddhists point to nirvana. Different stories, different symbols, different promises, but all born from the same source, the fear of annihilation. The rational Bible does not offer another comforting story. It offers something else entirely, an understanding that dissolves the fear itself, because this fear rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of what you are. You believe you are the body. The body ages, decays, dies. Therefore you will die. You believe you are the mind. The mind depends on the brain. When the brain stops, the mind stops. Therefore, you will cease to exist. But what if neither of these assumptions is true? What if you are not the body, but the awareness that observes the body? What if you are not the mind, but the consciousness in which thoughts appear? Then death becomes something entirely different, not an ending, a transition. From the Book of Creation, verse 5, "The body is a vessel, the psyche is the inhabitant. When the vessel breaks, the inhabitant does not cease. It returns to the infinite field from which it arose." The body is a vessel, temporary, material, subject to entropy. But the psyche, the soul, the consciousness, the awareness is not material. It is energy. And energy, according to the first law of thermodynamics, cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. This is not mysticism. This is physics. Energy is indestructible. Energy is indivisible at its essence. Energy transcends material form. And consciousness, as we explored in our previous episodes, is not something the brain produces. Consciousness is the fundamental reality in which the brain appears. So when the brain dies, consciousness does not die. It simply stops expressing itself through that particular pattern. Think of it this way. A radio receives signals. It doesn't create them. When you smash the radio, the signal doesn't disappear. It simply stops being translated into sound you can hear. Your brain is the radio. Consciousness is the signal. Death smashes the radio. The signal continues. Now, let me share something remarkable. Dr. Alexis Carrel, a French surgeon and biologist, won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1912 for pioneering vascular suturing techniques. He was not a mystic. He was a scientist, a man who spent his life examining the physical mechanisms of life. And in his book, Man the Unknown, he made a stunning observation. If you explore the human body using the strongest microscope, there is one thing you will not find: conscience. Conscience. Consciousness. Awareness. You can examine every neuron, every synapse, every electrochemical reaction in the brain. You can map the entire connectome, the complete wiring diagram of the nervous system. But you will never find the thing that is aware. You'll find the mechanisms by which awareness interacts with matter. But awareness itself, invisible, immaterial, beyond the reach of any instrument. Because consciousness is not in the body is in consciousness. This is why the materialist explanation of mind fails. It tries to explain consciousness as an emergent property of brain complexity, like wetness emerging from water molecules. But wetness is just a word we use to describe the behavior of H2O molecules in liquid form. There's no separate thing called wetness that suddenly appears. Consciousness, on the other hand, is not a behavior. It's not an emergent property. It's the field in which all properties emerge. You cannot explain awareness by examining the brain any more than you can explain light by examining the eyeball. The eye detects light. It does not create it. The brain detects consciousness. It does not create it. So what happens at death? Verse 6 continues. Death is the moment when consciousness withdraws from form, like breath leaving the body. The form collapses. The consciousness returns to the ocean of awareness, undivided and eternal. Death is the moment when consciousness withdraws from form. Notice the language, not ends, not ceases, withdraws, like a wave returning to the ocean. The wave, this particular pattern, this temporary shape, dissolves. But the water never went anywhere. It was always ocean, temporarily expressing itself as a wave. You are the ocean, temporarily expressing itself as you. And when the wave collapses, the ocean remains. Here's the paradox I mentioned at the beginning, something I used to say to provoke deeper thinking. Once dead, you are immortal. What does that mean? It means that as long as you identify with the body, with the ego, with the temporary pattern, you experience yourself as mortal. You fear death because you believe death is your end. But once the body dies, once that identification is broken, what remains is the consciousness that was always immortal. You don't become immortal at death. You recognize that you always were. Or put another way, death is immortal. Death, the process of form dissolving, happens constantly. Cells die, thoughts die, moments die. Everything in the material world is in constant flux, constant transformation, constant death. But the death process itself, eternal, always present, never ending. And the awareness that witnesses death, also eternal, also never ending. Death and consciousness are both immortal. They dance together endlessly in the play of form and formlessness. Now here's where this gets practical. If you understand, truly understand, that you are not the body, not the thoughts, not the temporary patterns, but the eternal consciousness itself, then fear dissolves. Not because you believe in an afterlife, not because you have faith in reincarnation or heaven or any particular story, but because you recognize that the you that fears death is itself a temporary pattern, a wave afraid of becoming ocean again. And the real you, the awareness reading these words right now, was never born and will never die. Let me guide you through a brief contemplation. Close your eyes if you're able. If not, soften your gaze. Notice that you are aware, right now, in this moment, aware of sounds, aware of sensations, aware of thoughts appearing and disappearing. Now ask yourself, has this awareness ever not been here? Think back to your earliest memory. Awareness was there. Think of a moment yesterday. Awareness was there. Think of a moment from childhood. Awareness was there. The content changed. The thoughts changed. The body changed. The circumstances changed. But the awareness itself, the capacity to be conscious, was always present. And here's the crucial insight. You have never experienced the absence of awareness. Even in deep sleep, when you wake up, you say, "I slept well," or "I slept poorly." There's a continuity of experience, a sense of I that remained throughout. You've never experienced unconsciousness from the inside. By definition, you can't. When consciousness is absent, there's no you to experience its absence. So the only thing you've ever actually known is consciousness. The body comes and goes, thoughts come and go, emotions come and go. But awareness? Always here. Always now. Always present. That's what you are, and that's what death cannot touch. The body will die, the personality will dissolve, the memories will fade, but the awareness that animated that body, that witnessed those thoughts, that experienced those memories, that returns to the infinite field, not as Christopher or Susan or whoever you think you are, but as pure consciousness, undivided, eternal, free. The Hindus call it Atman, merging with Brahman, the individual soul recognizing its identity with the universal soul. The Buddhists call it the dissolution of the illusion of self, the recognition that there never was a separate you to begin with. The mystics of every tradition point to the same truth. You are not a separate wave. You are the ocean, temporarily experiencing itself as separate. And when the wave collapses, the ocean remains. Verse 7 offers this final teaching. What you call I is a pattern of consciousness, a temporary knot in the infinite field. When the knot unties, the field remains, unchanged, undivided, aware. A knot in the infinite field. Think of a rope. If you tie a knot in it, the knot seems like a separate thing. It has a shape, a name, an identity. But it's not separate from the rope. It is the rope, temporarily configured as knot. When you untie the knot, the rope remains. The knot doesn't go anywhere. It never had independent existence. You are the knot. Consciousness is the rope. Death unties the knot. The rope remains. Nothing is lost. Nothing ends. Only the illusion of separation dissolves. So where does this leave us? With a question more important than, what happens after death? The real question is, what happens before death? How do you live, knowing you are not the body, but the awareness? How do you move through the world, knowing you are not the wave, but the ocean? How do you love, knowing that everyone you meet is also the ocean, temporarily wearing a different mask? That's what we'll explore in our next episode, because if death is not the end, if you are eternal consciousness playing in temporary forms, then how you live this form, right now, becomes infinitely more meaningful. Not because you're earning a reward, not because you're avoiding punishment, but because you are the universe experiencing itself. And how you experience this moment shapes the universe's experience of itself. You are not a passive observer. You are an active participant in the cosmic dance. And the music never stops. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. This podcast is made possible by Orthopedia, a sanctuary for writers and readers. If you've ever wondered about the minds behind the books that shaped you, visit orthopedia.org. It's more than a directory. It's a living archive of consciousness expressing itself through words. Codex Æternum releases new episodes weekly. Subscribe wherever you listen and join me as we explore the deepest questions of existence. And remember, you are not a wave fearing the ocean. You are the ocean dreaming itself into waves. You are immortal. Oh, and one more extremely important thing for you to remember. Never be afraid of death, of this body you have. I know. The pain is fearing we will never see our loved ones. We will demonstrate to you that we are all inseparable. We will always be together, no matter the dimension. Until next time, live as the eternal consciousness you already are.